A man in black clothes comes tearing down the muddy road, his horse lathered in white foam. He rides like an absolute madman to intercept a group of travelers. But he isn't there to rob them. He's hiding a dark, expensive secret, one his own servant is about to brutally expose to the world. We hadn't ridden a full 5 miles past the telling of St. Cecily's tale, just passing through the leafy shade of Boughton-under-Rendley, when a man suddenly came tearing down the muddy road to overtake us. He was dressed head to toe in black clothes, though a white surplice peeked out underneath, and he was riding a dapple gray horse that was, quite frankly, a marvel to look at. The poor beast was sweating so profusely you would think it had been spurred at a frantic gallop for at least 3 miles. And his yeoman's horse? Same story. It was lathered in so much white foam it could hardly walk, completely spotted like a giant, panting magpie. A double valise rested awkwardly on the back of his saddle. He was riding light for the summer, you see. I watched him approach, wondering in my heart what kind of man this might be. I noticed his cloak was sewn right to his hood, and his hat dangled down his back by a cord. He had been riding entirely like a madman. He had even tucked a massive, floppy burdock leaf under his hood, presumably to keep the blazing hot sun off his head and manage the damp. But heavens, it was quite a sight to see the man sweat. Heavy drops were rolling off his forehead like a booming distillery full of plantain or wallflower. When he finally caught up to us, he cried out, breathless but eager. "God save this jolly company," he gasped. He told us he had spurred his horse fast just for our sake because he wanted to catch up and ride with our merry group. His yeoman, full of practiced courtesy, chimed right in. "Sirs, I saw you all ride out of your inn this morning, so I warned my lord here. He absolutely loves to ride with people for fun and good conversation." Our host gave a knowing nod. "Friend, God give you good fortune for that warning. It certainly seems like your lord is a wise man, and I bet he is quite joyful too. Can he tell a merry tale or two to make this company glad?" The yeoman puffed out his chest. "Who, my lord? Oh, sir, without a lie, he knows plenty about mirth and jollity. Believe it or not, if you knew him as well as I do, you would marvel at how craftily he works. He takes on tasks that would be impossibly hard for anyone here to pull off, unless they learned it straight from him. He might look pretty homely riding among you in those clothes, but if you knew him, it would be to your great advantage. I would bet everything I own that you wouldn't trade his acquaintance for anything. He is a man of high discretion, an extraordinary man." Well, our host asked, raising an inquisitive eyebrow, "Is he a scholar?" "A priest, tell me what he is." "No, he is far greater than that," the yeoman declared. "In a few words, host, I will show you his craft. My lord knows such a subtlety. I can't teach you his whole craft, but I help him with his work, and I will tell you this. This man could take all the ground we are riding on, all this road straight to Canterbury town, turn it completely upside down, and pave it all in solid silver and gold." When the yeoman finished boasting, our host blinked, thoroughly amazed. "Bless us," he said, "this is wonderfully marvelous to me. But tell me, if your lord is so prudent and deserves so much reverence, why does he care so little for his own honor? His upper garment isn't even worth a mite. Honestly, it is completely slovenly and torn to shreds. Why is your lord so dirty? Doesn't a man who can pave roads with gold have the power to buy better clothes? Tell me that, I beg you." The yeoman deflated just a little. "Why are you asking me?" He muttered, "God help me, the truth is, he is never going to thrive. Now, I won't openly admit this, so please keep it a secret, but he is simply too wise. When something is overdone, it falls apart, it just won't stand the test. It becomes a vice, so in that way I actually think he is ignorant and foolish. When a man has too great a wit, he often misuses it. That is what my lord does, and it grieves me deeply. God fix it, I can say no more." "No matter, good yeoman," our host said gently. "Since you know your lord's knowledge, tell us what he actually does. Where do you live?" In the suburbs of a town, the yeoman sighed, lurking in corners and blind lanes. We live right where robbers and thieves naturally hold their fearful, secret residences. Just like people too scared to show their faces in the daylight. That is how we live, to tell you the truth. But let me ask you something else, our host noted. Why is your face so terribly discolored? Peter the yeoman groaned, God give it a hard time. I am so used to blowing on a hot fire, I think that is what changed my color. I don't look into mirrors anymore, I just toil endlessly peering into the flames trying to learn how to multiply gold. We are always blundering around, always falling short of our conclusion. We create grand illusions for people. We borrow gold, maybe a pound or 2 or 10, and make them fancy we can turn 1 pound into 2. But it is entirely false. We always have good hope that we can do it, but that science stays far ahead of us. We can never overtake it. It slides away so fast it will make us all beggars in the end. Now, while the yeoman was spilling his heart, the Canon was drawing nearer. He was a deeply suspicious man, always convinced people were whispering about him. He edged close enough to hear every damning word. Hold your peace, the Canon hissed at him, speak no more words. If you do, you will pay dearly for it. You are slandering me in front of this company, and you are revealing things you should hide. Yes, our host said to the yeoman with a wry smile, tell on, whatever happens. Do not care a single mite for all his threatening. In faith, the yeoman said, standing his ground, I really do not care. When the Canon saw there was no stopping it, and that his yeoman was determined to spill all his alchemical secrets, he simply turned his sweating horse around and fled. He rode away out of pure sorrow and bitter shame. Ah, the yeoman chuckled, watching him go, here begins the game. I will tell you everything I know right now, since he is gone. Let the foul fiend destroy him. He brought me into this madness in the first place, so let him have sorrow and shame before he dies. This is a very serious matter to me, and yet, for all my grief and labor, I could never bring myself to leave it. Since my lord is gone, I will not hold back. I have lived with this Canon for 7 years, and I am no closer to understanding his science. I have lost everything I had because of it, and honestly, so have many others. I used to wear fresh, bright, gay clothing, now I wear a simple hose on my head. My skin used to be fresh and red, and now it is wan and leaden. My eyes are totally bleary from the labor. Look at the grand advantage of trying to multiply gold. That deceptive science has stripped me bare. I am so deep in debt from all the gold I have borrowed I will never be able to repay it. Let every man use me as a warning forever. Any man who turns to this will not win, he will just empty his purse and make his wits thin. And when he loses his own property to this hazard, you know what he does. He excites other men to do it too, because wicked folk find joy in having company in their pain. But let me speak of our work. When we are practicing our fantastic wicked craft, we seem wonderfully wise. We use terms so learned and strange, I blow the fire until my heart faints. We use orpiment, burnt bones, and iron scales ground down into a tiny, fine powder. We seal it all up in earthen pots with glass lamps so not a single breath of air escapes. We build slow fires and quick fires. The absolute care and woe we had in subliming our matters and in amalgaming and calcining quicksilver. But despite all our tricks, we can never conclude. Neither the ascension of our spirits nor the matters fixed below can avail us at all. All our cost goes straight to the devil. And there are honestly so many other things that belong to our craft. We have vessels of earth and glass, urinals, descending flasks, little phials, crucibles, cucurbits, and alembics. All of it worth less than a single leek. We use bull's gall, arsenic, brimstone, agrimony, valerian, and moonwort. We keep our lamps burning day and night. We use dung, piss, clay, saltpeter, and vitriol. We even make clay out of horsehair and human hair. My lord taught me to name the 4 spirits and the 7 bodies. The spirits are quicksilver, orpiment, salamaniac, and brimstone. The bodies are gold for the sun, silver for the moon, iron for Mars, quicksilver for Mercury, lead for Saturn, tin for Jupiter, and copper for Venus. Now, whoever wants to show off his foolishness, let him step right up and become a philosopher. It doesn't matter if you are a monk or a friar, you could sit at a book day and night, and it is all fantastic, foolish nonsense. All in vain. I could list corrosive waters, metal filings, oils, washings, fusible metals. Honestly, telling you everything would take up more pages than any Bible, so I will rest on these names. I have told you enough to raise a demon. We all seek the philosopher's stone, the elixir, but I swear to the God of heaven with all our craft and tricks, it will not come to us. It just makes us spend our money until we go mad. But this bittersweet false hope creeps into men's hearts. If these men had just a single sheet to sleep in, they would sell it to fund this craft. And wherever they go you can smell them, they reek of brimstone. They stink like a goat, the smell is so hot and sharp it will infect a man a mile away. And if you ask them why they dress so shabbily, they will whisper in your ear that if people knew their grand secret they would be murdered. Look how they betray innocent people. But let us move on to the actual work. Before the pot of metals is placed on the fire, my lord measures out the quantities. Only him, because men say he is incredibly skilled. And then you know what happens, the pot just shatters. And farewell, everything is gone. These metals are so violent they pierce right through the walls. Some sink into the ground, some scatter across the floor, and some leap straight up into the roof. I truly believe the devil himself is in the room with us. When the pot breaks, everyone starts yelling. One guy says it was because of how the fire was made. Another blames the blowing, which terrified me, because blowing the fire was my job. A third calls them both fools and says the proportions were wrong. A fourth yells that we didn't use beech wood, great strife all around. Then my lord steps in. What is done, he says smoothly. I'm sure the pot was just cracked, pluck up your hearts and be glad. So we sweep the rubbish into a heap, toss it into a sieve and pick through it. By God, one guy says, holding up a scrap, we still have some metal here. A merchant can't always prosper. My lord promises to bring it to a better conclusion next time. But hot or cold we always fail, we rave in our madness. When we are all together, every single man seems like a Solomon. But all that shines like gold is not gold, and every fair apple is not good to eat. The guy who seems the wisest is the biggest fool, and the one who seems the truest is a thief. You will know exactly what I mean by the time I finish this tale. There was a religious Canon among us who could deceive a whole city, even Nineveh, Rome, or Troy. Nobody could write down all his cunning tricks and infinite falseness if they lived 1,000 years. He would twist his words so slyly, he would make anyone completely dote on him. Now, to any honorable canons listening, please do not think I am slandering your house. There is a bad apple in every order. Among Christ's 12 apostles there was Judas. Should the rest take the blame? Of course not. Just remove the Judas from your convent before he causes shame. Listen to what I have to say. In London there was a priest. He lived in a house where his landlady loved him so much she wouldn't let him pay for room or board. He had plenty of spending silver. One day this false canon came to the priest's chamber. Now you might think this canon I am talking about was my lord, the one who just rode away. But by the Queen of Heaven, no, it was another canon entirely. This guy knew 100 times more tricks. It pains me to even talk about his lies. He begged the priest to lend him a mark of gold for just 3 days. Lend it to me, he said, and if you find me false, hang me up by the neck. So the priest quickly handed over the gold. The canon thanked him, and exactly on the 3rd day he brought the money back. The priest was thrilled. Honestly, the priest said, I don't mind lending money to a man who never breaks his day. What? The canon replied, clutching his chest, should I be untrue? I will keep my truth until I creep into my grave, God forbid otherwise. Sir, since you have shown me such great gentleness, I want to repay your kindness. If you want to learn, I will teach you plainly how I work in philosophy. Before I go, you will see a masterpiece with your own eyes. Yes, the priest said eagerly, will you really? At your command, the canon smiled. Look at how this thief offered his services. The old wise folks used to say that offered services stink, and I am about to prove it. This canon was the root of all treachery, but what did this poor, innocent priest know? He had no idea what kind of trap this fox had set for him. He was completely blinded by greed. The canon turned to the priest. Sir, send your man to get 2 or 3 ounces of quicksilver. When he comes back, you are going to see a wondrous thing. The servant ran out and brought the quicksilver back. The canon laid it down, then told the servant to bring coals so they could get to work. After that, he sent the servant away and shut the door tight. We need total privacy, he whispered, so no one spies on our philosophy. The canon pulled a crucible right out of his shirt. Take this instrument, he told the priest, put an ounce of quicksilver inside it yourself. Right here you will become a philosopher. I have a powder here that cost me a fortune. It makes everything work. The priest, giddy with excitement, set the crucible on the fire and blew on the flames. The canon tossed his powder into the crucible. I don't even know what it was made of, maybe chalk, maybe glass, but it wasn't worth a fly. It was just a prop. Then he told the priest to stack the coals over the crucible. As a token of my love, the canon said, your own 2 hands will do all the work today. While the priest busily stacked the coals, this absolute fiend of a wretch pulled something out of his shirt. It was a piece of beechwood coal, but inside it had a small hole hollowed out, stuffed with exactly 1 ounce of silver filings and sealed up tight with wax. He held that fake coal secretly in his hand. Friend, you are doing it wrong, the canon sighed. Let me meddle with it for a second. By St. Giles, you are so hot I can see you sweating. Here, take this cloth, wipe your face. And while the poor priest was wiping his face, the canon placed his trick coal directly above the crucible. He blew on the fire, the coals started to burn hard. As that beechwood coal burned, the wax melted, and all the silver filings spilled straight down into the crucible. The priest knew nothing, he thought all the coals were exactly the same. When the fake alchemist saw his moment, he stood up. Rise up, Sir Priest, go walk out and bring me a piece of chalk stone and a pan full of water. I won't stay here alone, I will walk out with you and come back with you. They fetched the items and came right back. The canon carved the chalk into the shape of a mold. Now watch what he did. He slipped a small, solid piece of silver right out of his sleeve. He shaped the chalk mold to the exact size of that hidden piece of silver, so slyly the priest never noticed. Then he hid the silver piece back in his sleeve. He poured his melted material into the chalk mold, tossed it right into the pan of water and smiled. Put your hand in and grope around, he said. I hope you find silver in there. What else in the devil's hell would it be? Silver filings melt into solid silver. The priest reached in and pulled out a perfect, fine piece of silver. Every vein in his body rushed with joy. God's blessing be with you. The priest cried, if you will just teach me this noble craft, I will be yours in every way I can. The canon just smiled. I will do a second test so you can pay close attention. Let us take another ounce of quicksilver. The priest blew on the fire as hard as he could, but as a distraction, the canon held a hollow stick in his hand. Inside the bottom of that stick, he had stuffed another ounce of silver filings, sealed with wax. While the priest was busy, the canon tossed in his fake powder and started stirring the coals directly above the crucible with that very stick. Naturally, the wax hit the fire, melted, and every single particle of silver dropped right out of the stick into the crucible. The priest was completely fooled again. He honestly believed it was true magic. He was so glad he offered himself and all his goods to the canon right then and there. I might be poor, the canon purred, but you will find me very skilled. And I warn you, there is still more to come. Do you have any copper in here? The priest ran out and bought some copper. The canon weighed out exactly 1 ounce. He tossed it into the crucible, threw in the fake powder, and made the priest stoop down low to blow on the flames. It was all just a trick. He was making a complete ape out of the priest. Afterward, he poured the melted copper into the mold and tossed it into the pan of water. And then, the canon put his own hand into the water. Remember that solid piece of silver he hid in his sleeve earlier? He secretly slipped it out, dropped it at the bottom of the pan, and incredibly slyly scooped up the piece of copper and hid it away. He grabbed the priest by the chest, laughing like it was a game. "Stoop down now," he said. "Help me out, look what is down there." The priest reached in and pulled out this shining silver ingot. The canon smiled and said, "Let us take these 3 ingots to a goldsmith to find out if they are fine silver." So off they went. The goldsmith put them to the fire, hit them with his hammer, and nobody could say otherwise. They were perfect silver. Now this foolish priest, you have never seen a happier man. Not a nightingale singing in May, not a knight doing brave deeds for his lady, was as happy as this priest. He looked right at the canon and begged, "For the love of God, what does this recipe cost? Tell me right now." The canon shook his head. "By Our Lady, it is expensive. Except for me and one wandering friar, there is no man in all of England who can make this." "No matter, sir, I am begging you, just tell me." Well, the canon sighed. "If you really want it, you shall pay 40 pounds. And honestly, if it were not for your friendship, you would be paying a lot more." The priest fetched the 40 pounds in gold coins right then and there, and handed every single one over to the canon. "Sir priest," the canon said softly, tucking the gold away, "I want this kept completely quiet. Because if men knew all about my subtle skills, they would be so jealous they would kill me. There is no other way." "God forbid," the priest gasped. "I would rather spend all the wealth I have than let you fall into trouble." The canon smiled. "Farewell, and thank you very much." He went on his way, and the priest never saw him again. And later, when the priest set up his own fire and tried to make the recipe work, farewell, it just would not happen. He was entirely tricked, completely ruined. And that is exactly how this canon brings people to their absolute destruction. Consider this: in every walk of life there is a constant fight between men and gold. This whole trick of multiplying gold blinds so many people. These philosophers speak so mistily about their craft. They chatter away like jays, but they will never reach their goal. A man can easily learn how to multiply his wealth straight down to nothing. It takes a man's mirth and turns it entirely to sorrow. It empties out great heavy purses. If you have already been burned, can you really not flee the heat of the fire? If you are doing this, I strongly advise you to leave it alone. You can prowl around forever, but you will never find it. You are acting as bold as a blind horse named Bayard, blundering forward, just as likely to run headfirst into a stone as to walk around it. Withdraw from the fire before it burns too fast. Let me quickly tell you what the actual philosophers say about this matter. Arnold of the New Town wrote in his rosary that no man can mortify Mercury unless it is done with his brother's knowledge. The great Hermes said the dragon, which is Mercury, never dies unless he is slain with his brother Brimstone. He said no man should explore this art unless he can actually understand the intention of the philosophers, and even if he does, he is still a foolish man because this knowledge is the secret of secrets. A disciple of Plato once asked his master a direct question. "Tell me the name of that secret stone." "Take the stone that men named Titanos," Plato said. "Which one is that?" the disciple asked. "Magnesia is the same thing," Plato replied. "Sir, that is just explaining the unknown with something even more unknown." "What is magnesia, I pray you?" "It is a water made of the 4 elements," Plato said. "Tell me the root of that water," then the disciple asked. "Nay, nay," Plato said, "I absolutely will not. every single philosopher swore an oath that they would never discover it to anyone. They would never write it down in any book, because it is so precious and dear to God he does not want it discovered. He only wants to inspire whichever man he chooses. And that is the end of it. So here is my conclusion. Since the God of heaven does not want these philosophers to even name how a man can find this stone, I counsel you for the best. Let it go. Whoever tries to work contrary to his will is never going to thrive, even if he tries to multiply his gold for the rest of his natural life. My tale is ended. May God send every good man a remedy for his sorrow. Thank you for listening to this story. Narrated with Aura Reader.